Big news today. The Nationals trade away left-handed pitcher MacKenzie Gore to the Texas Rangers. I'm not going to lie, Nationals fans, I'm shocked.
You are Locked On Nationals, your daily Washington Nationals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. I am your host, Ryan Clary, and yes, this is the Locked On Nationals podcast. Let's look into the big news of today, though. The Washington Nationals have made it official. They have traded away left-handed pitcher MacKenzie Gore to the Texas Rangers, and in what I think is a shocking move for the timing of this. But later on in the show today, I'm going to break down the 5 prospects coming to the Washington Nationals. You'll not want to miss it. I'm going to be breaking down Gavin Fien, the top guy, the big headliner prospect, but also get into the other 4 as well, because there are a lot of intriguing options, as we'll get into that later on in today's show. But yes, it is happening. The Washington Nationals have traded MacKenzie Gore, and I'm stunned by this move. Not even 12 hours ago, I came on this exact podcast right here, Locked On Nationals, and I said that the Nationals will not be trading away MacKenzie Gore. Well, just a few hours later, the Washington Nationals, they have traded MacKenzie Gore to the Texas Rangers, which no one really saw the Rangers come into this equation, and what they have gotten is 5 prospects. I'm stunned by the timing of this move. After yesterday, when the New York Mets traded for Freddie Peralta, I was kind of like, listen, that may have been like the secondary option for the Mets. And maybe they were going after MacKenzie Gore, and the Nationals price tag may just be so high that no team out there is going to try to reach that. And Paul Toboni was on a podcast recently discussing about, hey, like, no one has met our price tag at this point. And so it all just kind of felt as if the Nationals were not going to trade MacKenzie Gore. Obviously, something in the last 24 hours has been happening behind the scenes. And here we are today with MacKenzie Gore no longer being a Washington National. But Nationals fans, if you are upset about this move, let me talk you off a ledge real quick. There is never a right time to trade away an all-star pitcher. But if there was the best time, that is today. I think that the Nationals made the absolute correct decision moving off of MacKenzie Gore, and here is why. The Nationals for the next 2 years, let's be honest here, this is not a team that is ready to win now. That's number 1. Number 2, MacKenzie Gore is a Scott Boras client. Let's go back to number 1 real quick, though. I think that winning matters in this equation here. Because if you were to hold on to MacKenzie Gore for the next 2 years, he would probably be walking in free agency. He would probably go to another team elsewhere and say, I'm going to take your $9 million or a 9-figure deal, and I'm going to go to a bigger market that is ready to win. That's just how Scott Boras clients work. And if you look at the window of contention for the Nationals, MacKenzie Gore does not fit that over these next few years. The Nationals will most likely start to win maybe in 2028, maybe in 2029, but it could even be a little bit longer than that. That's just the honest truth. But if you do trade someone of MacKenzie Gore's caliber, then that gets you closer to the finish line of a rebuild. I think the Nationals are closer right now than what they were 12 hours ago after trading MacKenzie Gore, and that is what it should be about. Listen, you root for the players on this team, but most importantly, you root for the team. If I were to tell you today that you have a better chance of winning in 2027 and in 2028 with this trade, I feel as if you would take that each and every single day. And that is why the Nationals are here today, trading away an all-star with MacKenzie Gore. The Nationals had to ensure that they were going to get the best value possible. And if there was no trade partner, even then, let's say there is no team interested in MacKenzie Gore, then obviously you hold on to him and you go into 2026 and he's going to be your ace. And maybe down the road at the trade deadline, someone will want to dance and maybe you get some good value back in return. But if you were to wait, the bad outweighs the good. And I think the Nationals came to that realization over these past few weeks because look at free agency. You really don't have anything to show for it at this point. You did not address the starting pitching market the way that they should have. You have not addressed your first base position as of right now. You got Harry Ford in a deal trading away Jose A. Ferrer to the Seattle Mariners. I think that is a great deal for this team, and it's going to help you out in the long run. But outside of that, you have got these young players on this team that just aren't simply ready to make the jump just yet. And I think that you can now spread this value around within these 5 prospects and hopefully in these next few years, develop them and then see that maybe the Nationals did something correct. And maybe they finally made the correct decision moving off of MacKenzie Gore when they did. This is why you bring in a Paul Toboni, an Ani Colombi, a Devin Pearson. Like, this move, in my opinion, is the absolute correct thing to do. If this was Mike Rizzo, I would look at this trade right now for 5 different prospects, and none of them being star prospects, by the way. I would say, what are we doing? Because a lot of these guys are raw talents, are 18, 19, 20 years old, a couple of them up in their young 20s who are ready to make the jump into the major leagues. But you look at this and you're like, okay, but you don't develop prospects well. This is a team that I think now has a ton invested in player development. You bring in a Toboni, a Devin Pearson from the Red Sox, Ani Colombi from the Phillies to develop prospects. You now have that chance. And if you can develop a couple of these guys, let's say 2 of these guys, 3 of these guys become everyday legitimate starting players for this team, that is a big win for the Nationals. You now check off a few of your needs in that to-do list, and I think the Nationals can get better from this move. So seeing that the Nationals traded MacKenzie Gore today, the timing of it, I was floored by it. Because we obviously saw all the smoke. You saw the reports, even as far as a week ago, that the Nationals were still shopping MacKenzie Gore. But I was a little skeptical at first. Because were the Nationals, we all thought that they were going to be moving and shaking and making trades around the trade deadline. That never happened. Nothing came into fruition. But you now fast forward about, 2 months? And the Nationals have traded away their left-handed pitcher who is their number 1. I'm stunned by this move. I was just talking again today on this show, on this podcast, Locked On Nationals. Look at the receipts. I was saying they will not trade him now, and I think it's a mistake. Well, the Nationals made the correct decision. You are moving off of MacKenzie Gore at the exact right time. Are you going to roll that dice and think that he's going to have a first half for the ages and you get more in return? You could have played that card, but also here's the flip side of it. What if he gets injured? What if Gore gets injured and, Tommy John surgery happens? What if he has a finger injury? What if he slips and falls on the ice in the snowstorm in DC coming this weekend? Crazy things can happen. Are you willing to take that risk and not trade him at all, and he misses 2026, and then you try to trade him in 2027, and what happens in 2027? Can you trade him? Will there be a lockout? There's so much unknown. The Nationals had to make this move. They realized that they were in a desperate position, that they need value, and they need it now to replenish this farm system and hopefully get this team across the finish line and get them back into playing October baseball. And they made the move. And this is the correct move to make. So as soon as I saw that move, obviously it's like, oh my gosh, but I'm sitting pretty well with it. I think this is a good move. And for the 5 prospects the Nationals got in return, I think that this is a pretty good return. I'm not going to say great, but I think that this is a really good return, highlighted by first round pick in 2025, Gavin Fien. And I think that the Nationals, like, you've got a couple of talented young prep bats in this draft class now, with Eli Willits, number 1 overall pick, and now you've got Gavin Fien. I think this is a really intriguing group. Let's break down those 5 prospects that the Nationals got in return, highlighted by the first round pick, Gavin Fien. I'll tell you all about that and why I really like him. And I'm also not the only one who really liked him. I think Paul Toboni did too. I'll tell you why after this. And yes, tax season doesn't take over your life, or at least it doesn't have to. And this year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever just to hand things off and move on with your day. And with TurboTax full service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish, and without the stress or guesswork. And instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or connect online. And they handle everything from W-2s to self-employed forms and work to get you every deduction. And you can upload your documents, go about your day, and get updates right in the TurboTax app. It's a huge time saver and gives a real peace of mind knowing an expert is handling it. So for a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert just for $150 all in. If a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year, just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit turbotax.com/local to book your appointments today. And we are back here on Locked On Nationals as the Nationals have traded away MacKenzie Gore for 5 prospects. And this is a pretty big deal here. And I'll kind of get into just what I think about the overall haul. But before that, I got to tell you guys about the Everydayer Club. And yes, this is so exciting because the Washington Nationals are here. They have made trades, and you can join an exclusive club right here with the Locked On Podcast Network. So thank you for making Locked On Nationals your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. And if you haven't already, go check out our new Everydayer Club, where you get an access to ad-free audio feed for Locked On Nationals, compatible with Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and every major podcast app. An invite to the members-only Locked On Everydayer Club with a Discord server, which includes a group chat just for listeners of this show. And you can go to lockedonnationals.supercast.com today and sign up for the Everydayer Club. Again, that is lockedonnationals.supercast.com. So let's get into this haul, because this is a pretty big haul. Again, the Nationals have traded MacKenzie Gore for 5 prospects in return. The highlighted prospect is Gavin Fien, a first-round pick, 18-year-old, the 12th pick in the draft in 2025 by the Texas Rangers. And then also you have Alejandro Rosario. You also have Yeremy Cabrera and Devin Fitzgerald. And you also have Abimelec Ortiz. And this is a very, very intriguing haul because there's no like headliner deal. Like, if you were trading MacKenzie Gore, I think a lot of Nationals fans had their eyes set on like a Bryce Eldridge, who is a top 15 prospect in baseball. And I never really thought that was too realistic, because the Nationals, listen, MacKenzie Gore is good, but also, is he a number 3 on a good team? Probably. He's not a number 1 on a playoff team, in my opinion. And I think he's good. I think he's got another gear to him. And I think that the Nationals could have tapped into that with him. But also, are you going to roll that dice? Again, that's what it goes back to. So when you look at this deal right now, the Nationals got some good value in return. And again, when you get Paul Toboni in the building, when you get Ani Colombi to run, to be your GM, when you have Devin Pearson overseeing the player development, these are guys who have faith in analytics and faith in data. And I think that this is what led to the Nationals getting a 5 prospect haul. Like, when you think back to when the Nationals traded Soto, you got a huge haul of top guys that are going to be stars. James Wood, MacKenzie Gore, CJ Abrams, Harleen Susanna, like Robert Hassel. All 5 of those guys have appeared in the top 100 of basically any major publication out there that puts out top 100 prospects. We were never going to get that. In fact, right now, there's really no top 100 guys within this trade, but the potential is there, and that is key. So let's start off with Gavin Fien. I think Gavin Fien is probably by far and away the headliner of this draft class. The 18-year-old 12th overall pick did cut a slot deal with the Texas Rangers in the 12th overall pick in this past summer's draft. I think what he brings to the table is, number one, he'll probably be a third baseman down the line, a 6'3", 200-pound body, 18 years old. This is someone who's got some power, he's got some hit ability, and he does have some athleticism that, maybe could steal 15 bags someday. But here's what I really like about him. I think he's got a really good swing. And looking at the mechanics of the way that this guy can hit, like, you can see that there is a lot of raw potential there. So you now have 2 top prep guys in your prospect list and in your system right now at the Nationals that makes you a whole of a lot better. So I think that this move today with Gavin Fien coming back in this return, this is a good return in itself. And of course, you've got 4 other guys. Like, are you going to trade MacKenzie Gore straight up for Gavin Fien? No, you can do better. But this is the headliner deal. And when you have this player development group here with Toboni and the brain trust of Devin Pearson and Ani Kalambi, Justin Horowitz, like, you have got some guys that have a background of developing prospects, and that's what this is about. I think what the Nationals did today is something that would not work if they did not have the pieces in place to develop said prospects. You make the investments this offseason to develop a Gavin Fien, and I think the Nationals can do that exactly. So, looking at this return, at first I was like, okay, this is whelming. It's not overwhelmingly good. It's not underwhelmingly bad. I think it's a good trade, a good, fair trade. Here's what I heard, though, from Jim Callis from MLB Pipeline, the guy who puts together and orchestrates the top 100 list, the top 30 for each ball clubs. He said this on the local radio today with 106.7 The Fan. He said that he heard before the draft that the Red Sox were, and this I'm paraphrasing, but he said that they were obsessed with Gavin Fien, and they loved the fact that, and they were hoping and praying that Gavin Fien would fall to the Red Sox at number 15 so they could take him. Paul Toboni and Devin Pearson come from the Boston Red Sox. So they look at this guy as someone that they wanted in this past year's draft class. And oh, by the way, I'm not making this comparison, but this is the same brain trust from the Red Sox that have drafted Christian Campbell, who's been a top 10 prospect, Roman Anthony, who was the number 1 prospect in baseball this time last year. That's a pretty good sign. He played 10 games down in low A after the draft and, didn't hit any home runs, didn't put up some wow numbers within 10 games. He had 9 hits in 10 games and struck out 11 times. He stole a base, had 7 RBIs in those 10 games. So I guess that's pretty okay. But this is someone who the Nationals' new regime here is very high on. So the Nationals get him back in return on top of 4 other prospects. So I thought that was a very intriguing nugget on Gavin Fien. And the 18-year-old now joins Eli Willits, who we talked about today, the number 1 overall pick by Mike DeBartolo in this group. This is now 2 of the top prep high school bats in this past year's draft class, and you get them now in your system. The Nationals now have a much better system, including now that it joins Gavin Fien. You also have guys in the system in the back end, like a Landon Dickerson, Corey Dickerson. Oh my gosh, I'm blanking on some names right now, but you understand the point. We'll break down the 4 other prospects for the Washington Nationals next. But I do want to say this. this is not just some like, let's just take the best offer out there. The Nationals have had a plan, and they've executed that said plan. So when you now have guys like a bunch of middle infielding prospects like Seaver King, Luke Dickerson, Gavin Fien, Eli Willits, you have got a lot of different possibilities I think could help this team, hopefully today and down the line moving forward. So let's get into the other 4 prospects because there are a couple of guys who will be very interesting moving forward. We'll talk about that after this. And let's get into the 4 other prospects as we just talked about Gavin Fien, who is probably the number 1 guy to think about when it comes to this deal. But after that, there's a lot of guys to talk about, including Alejandro Rosario, who is their number 6 prospect in the Rangers system, hasn't pitched since 2024. And Paul Toboni announced today that he will be going under Tommy John surgery and will be back in 2027. But you look at Alejandro Rosario and the numbers that he put up in 2024, he had a 2.24 ERA in 18 appearances, 17 starts, 88 and a third innings pitch, 129 strikeouts, a 0.93 whip, and check this out, 13 walks in 88 and a third innings pitch down in multiple levels of the minor leagues in 2024. That is a pretty big deal. And if you look at the stuff, he's got a 3-pitch mix right now, a solid fastball that's mid-90s there, a slider that works well, and also a splitter that is probably one of his most renounced pitches at this point. And so you look at him, it's of course a disappointment that he's being shut down and undergoing Tommy John surgery. But you look at this deal and you're like, okay, this is a intriguing guy who has put up some good numbers. And again, we've always talked about the wave of prospects coming through the system. And I do think the Nationals get another arm in the system that is not going to help you in 2026. He will likely help you in the later half in 2027, depending on how things go. But he'll be undergoing Tommy John surgery. You hope that he'll be ready for spring training in 2027. He starts with his rehab the first few months, works his way up through the minor league system. You get him healthy, and that's where things really start to take off, but does not end there. Then you go to their number 12 guy, Devin Fitzgerald, in this deal, who is probably the number 3 guy of this trade group, and he is a 20-year-old 2024 fifth-round pick, and he's put up some really wow numbers this past season in rookie ball and in low A. He had some really good numbers, 31 games down in rookie ball, and the power is there, a sweet left-handed swing there. I think the Nationals have got themselves some really intriguing guys in this deal. Devin Fitzgerald will likely be like that Danny Espinosa type of guy, and he won 4 consecutive Florida 7A state championships at Stoneman Douglas High School down in Parkland. That's kind of cool, just reading that now about his fact. Like, this is someone that, again, 20 years old, it's not going to be like some major process to develop him. I think he's someone that could work his way up through the system. He'll likely start in Fredericksburg, work his way to Wilmington, and see what happens when he gets to AA. But another intriguing bat in the system. And if you now see that the Nationals have got this logjam of middle infielders, Toboni's got a type. Very clear in my opinion. Like, if you look at what they did with the Red Sox, they loaded up on shortstops, and now that's what the Nationals are doing here today. The Nationals have always had a logjam when it comes to outfielding prospects, but now we got to talk about the logjam that is their middle infield depth. They've got a lot of it. And again, we talk about trades and sending away MacKenzie Gore and how are we going to replace that talent. Maybe down the road, the Nationals can turn in this middle infield talent that, not all of them are going to make it up into the major leagues. Maybe you can trade them away for some big league talent if you do start to turn some heads in 2027. Maybe Fitzgerald really works his way into the Nationals' brains of trust, and Devin Fitzgerald is a big trade piece. Or maybe he's that breakout star. Again, another prep high school bat in 2024. That's an intriguing guy to watch, in my opinion. So he's another guy to really watch out for moving forward. And again, one of the other guys is their number 18 guy, Yeremy Cabrera, the 20-year-old who worked his way to low A for the Texas Rangers this year, put up some solid numbers. 256 batting average, has been with the Rangers since 2022. This is someone that I think, again, coming from the Dominican Republic, I really like this. I like this move. This is a 20-year-old who's got some power in him. He's a 60 grade runner, and I don't know where he's going to fit within this outfield group, but you are getting talent back in return that I think could help this team. And then, of course, last but certainly not least, is probably the guy who might make the opening day roster, is Abimelec Ortiz. I'm not 100% sure I'm saying his name correctly. Tried to find a pronunciation, could not find that, so I apologize in advance. But a 55 grade power, someone who's over at first base, who has played in the outfield as well. We've talked about the first base position being very vacant for the Washington Nationals at this point. So is it going to be Ortiz as your opening day first baseman, the 23-year-old who turns 24 just in 1 month from now? Maybe the Nationals take a chance on him. Maybe he's like your kind of surprise out of nowhere, someone who's going to be competing with Yohandy Morales. That'll be an interesting duo to watch down in the minors and really sees who separates from the pack there. But coming off a season in which he had a 479 slug across AA and AAA, I think that this is an intriguing guy who hit 25 home runs. He had 25 doubles. He had a couple of triples in there as well. He's not a burner guy. He's not going to steal bases. He's not the best defender from what we can see so far. But this is someone that I think, again, adds a lot of value into the Washington Nationals. And I think that that is what this trade was about today. You take all these 5 guys, Paul Toboni, Devin Pearson, Ani Colombi, all these guys now have the opportunity to try to develop them down in the minor leagues. We can get more into individual success. Gavin Fien is the obvious highlight prospect in this deal. I think that there's a good chance the Nationals can and will develop him. It's very clear that the Nationals were high on him all throughout this process. Jim Callis reported today, or even said on the show over on 106.7 The Fan, the Grant Nanny show, that is, that the Red Sox, and that was controlled by Devin Pearson and Paul Toboni, they were very high on Gavin Fien, and unfortunately, he was not there for them to take at number 15. But I believe in the fact that the Nationals, they've got their idea of just kind of how things work. And if this was Mike Rizzo, I don't think that he would make this move. And if he did make this move, and if this was, let's say, in 2023, when you trade a MacKenzie Gore for the 2 years left on his deal, whatever it would be, I don't think that they would get this return, number one. And number two, if they did, I wouldn't be confident in them developing these 5 guys. And who knows? Maybe the Nationals fall flat in their faces and these guys don't turn out. But I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. I think that this is a group that knows what they are doing. They are analytically advanced. They are young. They are hungry. I think that this is a good trade for what the Nationals should be doing. You now add 5 guys, and a lot of these guys being 19, 20, 21, 22, 23-year-olds into this system. That is a smart thing to do. The Nationals have now done that. And of course, you now have a chance at developing these guys. And if 2 of these guys turn out to be good major league quality players that had 3-4 WAR seasons, you have got yourself a really interesting group of prospects in return that, by the way, I would be really interested to see just how far the Nationals have skyrocketed up in these farm system rankings. You now have Harry Ford from this offseason. You now have Luis Perales, Gavin Fien. All these guys will be ranking inside your top 10s that the Nationals have acquired. And also Eli Willits, a top 20 prospect in baseball, the number 1 overall pick from this past year's draft. Like, this is a completely different farm system just after this trade. Imagine what they do after the draft. And of course, stay true to the process. You got to trust what this group does. This is not Mike Rizzo hitting grand slams and then swinging and missing. This is a group that goes by analytics, that goes by data, and they've got a process that I think a lot of Nationals fans, it's going to take some time to get used to, but you're going to learn to love it. That is my guest today right here on Locked On Nationals. So thank you all for making Locked On Nats your first listen. If you have not done so already, look up Locked On Nationals wherever you get your podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Clary. I will be here each and every single day. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy some Nationals baseball. Enjoy all the rumors that are coming out. And is CJ Abrams next? I guess we'll talk about that coming up next week. Stay safe through the snowstorm. Have a good one. Go Nats.